Ooh, guys, get excited, because I'm just winging this one. Yeah, I just wanted to talk about books and reading because I love both. I'm not sure if this is going to be more heavy on the reading side or the book side yet. I do want to share some of my favorite books. It's still cool to like dive into a story and immerse yourself in a book, and because our minds are so vivid and imaginative. So some of my favorites. I'm gonna start with this bad boy right here. This is a book I read when I was a kid. It's from the Star Wars Young Jedi Knights series, and it's called Jedi Under Siege. I wasn't the fastest reader, and sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Now it depends on what I'm reading and what I'm trying to get kind of out of a book. But I remember I wasn't a very fast reader at the time, but I loved Star Wars, and that was one way to get me to read, was something I was interested in. So obviously, Star Wars. It was set, you know, after the events of Return of the Jedi. Luke Skywalker had started a new Jedi Academy. Han and Leia had kids, and they had these twins, Jason and Jaina. So it primarily follows Jason and Jaina. I like Jedi Under Siege a lot because I remember I read this book in 2 days, and for me that was like a huge deal. I read about somewhere in here the first day. Just, you know, I didn't read a whole lot the first day, but then I just like went all the way through the rest of it the second day because I was just so in the story. It was cool because like there was this resurgence of a Sith army. Sith army comes to destroy the new Jedi temple, and there's a huge flippin' war, and it's just action-packed and fun. So one of my favorite books growing up. I need to reread these because they're super easy, fun reads. Let's see, I got a bunch of my favorites behind me. Let's do this one here. This is Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. My good friend gave me this book, and man, it is just phenomenal. It's so good. The little subtitle here is Discovering the Secret of a Man's Soul. And you guys, there's just so much truth in here, and there's so much about what it means to like be who you are in identity. A lot of scripture in it, which is cool. And it's just an easy read, and he's a great storyteller too, and loves stories, which is so much fun. So again, if you're into stories and movies, he loves movies. He talks about some of my favorites like Braveheart, Lord of the Rings, which, you know what, I might as well just go to that one next. Oh, I've got all this stuff on these shelves. Lord of the Rings, man. One of my favorite, I mean, it's 3 books, but one of my favorite series of all times, and it's all one big story, so I mean, I kind of consider it like one big book anyway. But, you know, Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, The Return of the King. They're all phenomenal. I really liked reading The Return of the King. I don't know, there's something about starting it and ending it. Two Towers is great, don't get me wrong, but like when you're starting it, you're getting into the world and the characters and the setting, and Tolkien is so descriptive, and again, it's just like with the languages that he invented and he based them in other languages, it just feels so real. It feels like, man, this is actual like history. This is a place that these things happen, is how it feels when you start reading. So then you get into it, twists and turns, it's phenomenal, and then you get to The Return of the King, and like, you know, spoilers if you've never read it or seen the movies, but like Aragorn is the king he's coming back to the world of men, decided that he's going to lead his people, and that they're gonna fight in the War of the Ring, and that they're gonna come against evil. And no matter what the cost, even if everyone dies, it's like, we're gonna fight till the end. And he's just amazing, and the story is amazing, and then, you know, all the hobbits are fun and great and full of life, and it's just everything in this book, guys. There's love, there's beauty, there's, you know, horrific things, and terror, and triumph, and joy. Like, I don't know, it's just Lord of the Rings. If you've only watched the movies, I highly encourage you to read the books, because the books are so phenomenal. There's a lot of books to choose from. There's so many good ones. So this is my copy of The Four Loves by C.S. Lewis. And you guys, he's just such a great writer and just full of so much truth. And I think what's cool about this, I mean, this isn't the definitive guidebook to what love is exactly, but he describes the 4 different main types or characteristics of love that he notices in life. You know, there's like, I can't even remember them all right now, but there's like filial love, which is like brotherly love, like friendship. There's agape love, which is like parental love. Let me see if I've got some cool things. Yeah, I've got some little markings on here, just a little excerpt. By loving him more than them, we shall love them more than we do now. You guys, like, that just like gives me hope, man. Like, for tomorrow, for every day, for people around me. Like, I love people. I have a big family. I love my family. I love my friends. So reading stuff like that, it fills me up, gives me hope, gives me courage. Great book. Highly recommend The Four Loves. I really honestly recommend anything by C.S. Lewis or Tolkien. I'm a huge C.S. Lewis fan. I've read tons of his stuff, but and I haven't read this one in a while, so forgive me if I make mistakes talking about it or what it's about. But this one is basically about two princesses. One's attractive, one is not. And it's basically a reworking of the classical myth of Cupid and Psyche, which when I first found out about this book, it's like, I'm sure, like, I knew like he would have read about all those classic myths, but I didn't know that he really wrote a reworking of one like this. It's cool too because he's got a very unique writing style, and I think anytime you read one of his books, you're like, oh yeah, this is Lewis. But there's something about this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, if there's any scholars watching, but I remember reading it and it just, again, kind of almost, not like Tolkien in the sense that it's super descriptive, but it draws you in, and the world feels pretty real, even though there's these like crazy kind of fantastical things happening. There's just something like familial about it and relatable, and it's kind of, but at the same time, it gets really abstract, and it's one of those books that I really need to read again, because I'm sure I could read it multiple times and get so much out of it. So, Till We Have Faces, phenomenal book. Since I've been speaking about Tolkien and Lewis a whole bunch, I actually recently read this book. It's called A Hobbit, a Wardrobe, and a Great War. And who's this by? It's Joseph LeConte. He's Italian. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, excuse me. But man, I found this for like a good deal, and I love these authors and history, so I picked it up, and man, like, it's fascinating. So many interesting stories about their lives, journal entries from when they were younger, from when they were in World War I. And man, it's cool too. I read it, like I said, recently, and it puts so many things that are happening in the world and in my life right now into perspective in a way that I was like, whoa. For me, I'm not saying we don't go through struggles. I've been through struggles, but life is good. I was reading this, like, oh my gosh, if people only knew, like what others have gone through and gone through for us and what they stood for, when there was so much hopelessness in the world, and these guys managed to keep their faith and just push forward in life, and then write these great works that we all know and love and relate to. They wrote out of their suffering. They wrote out of their love. They wrote from like the truest place of who they were. So hearing and reading about all that, man, it was phenomenal. I mean, I personally, if anyone's like, hey, I want to read a book, I don't even know, like, read this. Just read this. If you don't like it, I would be so incredibly amazed if you didn't find this book absolutely fascinating. So, gotta mention Les Miserables. It's also just phenomenal. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen the musical or a movie iteration of it. That's how I got introduced to it, was the musical, the 10th anniversary special. That could be my favorite singing version of it. But anyway, the story is phenomenal. So I wanted to read the full unabridged version before the movie came out, the one with Hugh Jackman. It took me a long time. I'm not even gonna pretend like I read this quickly. But it's also the first time, because like art causes us to have these connections and emotional reactions, or things that we can relate to, or it helps us understand things better in our lives, like how the world works, or how a certain attribute or personality trait functions in society or amongst people, or whatever. Like, stories and art can just help us in many ways. Just like I laugh when I watch movies or TV shows, I might laugh in some other art form or whatever. But when it comes to books, I generally just kind of read straight through, and I think and I feel things and all that stuff. But this is the first time I've read a book where I cried. Like, I've never read a book before where like I had tears. The last 10 or so pages of this book, when Jean Valjean is dying and he's confessing all of his love towards Cosette and Marius, you guys, I literally like had tears throughout all of the last 10 pages. I could not get through the end of the book without tears. Now I'm not just like sobbing and crying, but still like that's a huge deal. Like I've never had that happen before, but I was like just tears reading this book. It is so good. It's a beast, and it's, you know, a lot of it is sad, but there's beauty in it. There's so much beauty and hope in this book as well. So, I mean, there are shorter versions, so you can find those as well. But just get into the story. Batman: The Long Halloween. I've read a lot of Batman comics and graphic novels. There's a lot of great stories. I might touch on that even later. But man, The Long Halloween is just like classic. And multiple Batman films have used this as inspiration. I mean, Batman Begins and the whole Dark Knight trilogy used a lot of this graphic novel as source material, and it shows. What's great about it is it's still uniquely its own story. I don't feel like, oh, I just read Batman Begins or something. It doesn't feel that way, but you can tell there's so much inspiration from it. If you like movies, if you like visual arts and drawings and pictures and whatever, just the panels, like the artwork is so cool. It was a little odd at first because a lot of it is very like, what's the word, exaggerated or something, or kind of almost caricaturish, but it doesn't matter because once you get into it, like the images somehow just, they become phenomenal. Like, it's not like they were bad to begin with, but they just become so gorgeous. And again, you forget, I don't want to say you forget about the detailing of it. You're in the story, and it just comes alive, and all the little like things that might seem kind of odd about it just enhance the story. It enhances the characters and the mood and the way they do angles and even like shadows and lighting. Like, so if you've never read a comic book or a graphic novel in your life, I mean, this is a great start, especially if you like Batman. Like, this is so good. Not for kids. It's pretty intense and violent, but it's great. I guess I'll end with this. Like I said, there's a lot I could say about books and about reading, and I might make more videos about it, but I just wanted to share some of my favorite books. There's so much to learn from reading, even fictional stuff. I think almost any reading experience can be a learning experience or helpful in a way, or mature you, help you grow, or see the world differently. Because the people who write books, you know, it's like they took the time to tell a story that was so important to them that they thought other people should hear it, other people should read it and imagine it and experience it with them, or in a new way, because we're all unique. I think that's fascinating. And like I said, there's a quote I read a long time ago from somewhere, and I'm gonna butcher it, and I don't know who it was, so I'm sorry. But like, reading a book is like seeing through someone else's eyes. You know, you can experience other cultures, you know, maybe not fully, obviously, but you can have an understanding of what it's like to live with this, you know, in a certain nation, or with a certain group of people, or during a certain time, or if it's, again, mythic or epic or fantasy, it's like you get to experience what our, you know, characteristics are as humans in terms of being like heroic, you know, what it means to be a hero, what it means to be a warrior. There's just so many cool things about books, so many cool things to learn from them. And like I said, if you love stories, it's kind of a no-brainer to me that you should be reading books. So yeah, tell me what books you're reading. I hope you are reading. And if you have decided I'm gonna start reading, let me know and tell me what books you're into. Tell me if you've read any of these books. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.